Welcome to Scene, where the art world meets the real world. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with emerging and established artists to offer a genuine glimpse into their lives and minds, all in an authentic and totally straightforward manner. I'm Carrie Scott, your host. And with 2 decades of experience as a curator and art historian, I firmly believe in the transformative power of art, if it's seen. Have you seen Rob Strati's work? It's so intricate. And Rob's art's all about transforming everyday objects into something special. And he's now most famed for this work he did as an ode to his wife, which he'll tell you all about in our conversation. But it's heartbreakingly beautiful what he did and what he's done. And I think it's fascinating how the work is cut and layered and how he can get you to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. This is one of those interviews and artists who I hope will kind of grow on you and stick on you and make you want to look a little closer. Afternoon, Rob. We are in totally different time zones. And I want to launch into this with a bit of an introduction, because you and I have never met. You are one of the few artists. There's 2 others who I've interviewed so far whose work I've never seen in real life. But you sent me an email. I think it was an email and not an Instagram DM. And I literally was like, wait a minute, what is this? And I wanted to get into my phone. I couldn't get close enough to your work.
Wow.
And without doing any research and just going off instinct, which sometimes I think is important even for us geeky academics, I just was like, I've got to talk to this man and figure out what on earth he's trying to do here, because your work is singular, right? Haven't ever seen anything like it before. So I just want to start with that. Tell me about this new series where the thing I was looking at was basically a broken plate, drawing, and a kind of a narrative that spills off this old plate. Mm-hmm. Tell me more.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been doing art for 30 plus years, exhibiting different sort of more abstract conceptual work. But this new series started when my wife, during the pandemic, dropped a plate in the kitchen. And it was her mother's. We inherited it. And there was a large fragment left behind. It just didn't know what to do with it. Didn't want to throw it away because it was her mom's. It was big enough where there was some sort of, significance to it. So just kind of left it on the kitchen island and thought, well, we're going to put it in the basement. And I had just seen it as a sort of a geometric pattern. I didn't really spend that much time looking at it. But over the course of a couple months, moving it around, putting groceries down, one day I just sort of looked at it a little closer and I saw, a bird sort of half flying off the fragment and a little bridge kind of half there. And just sort of envisioned the world beyond what was left behind. And that was it. That's how it started. And then I took it back to the studio.
And you didn't think, oh, I want to piece it back together, but instead you let it spill open.
Right. I think it was just the nature of what happened, in that there weren't enough. It would have been too complicated and it wouldn't have looked right as the plate if we glued it together again or something. We couldn't use it, but the fragment was kind of interesting and just maybe something just to remember, but then it kind of evolved when I looked a little closer at what was actually going on there.
And so has that extended beyond just this one plate? Have you taken other plates from, or are you now just breaking all the plates in your house?
Right. No, it was that plate. And then from there, I just started looking for plates that had some sort of story to them. And I think the first one was a blue willow pattern, which is a classic kind of chinoiserie pattern that looks sort of Asian, but was designed in London in the 1780s, I think. And so I just did a couple of those and then started seeing other patterns when I was looking around and things that are sort of, you call it scenes of people hunting or just rural scenes, things like that. And what the stories could be beyond that. I think having the plate fragmented just spoke to me not only as like a gesture of love for that was the initial thing, was just, I want to make something for Jocelyn and her mom. And I had this vision, and it wasn't as much an idea. It was just an accident and a vision. But then as I was working on them, I saw the sense of like these historic plates being fragmented, culture fragmenting. And what do we do? And we're in the midst of these transitions in our world right now that the world's always evolving, right? But sometimes it's more fluid. And right now it feels very jagged and painful and fragmenting. And so what happens? And that's always happened through history. And then what do you do with that? So
there was also this, as I was trying to get into my phone, I started thinking about like, the way some of the monuments have been started to be ripped down across the world, right? This sort of colonialism or anti-colonialism and a re-looking at history. And then I was thinking about those plates, and you referenced it a second ago, right? Like English porcelain there's a huge history there. Same with the Dutch, and I had never stopped to consider what the patterns represented, and like what narratives were in those plates. And we've inherited some plates from my mother-in-law that were her father's, that are these blue. They're Dutch, I think. And I've been to other people's homes in the UK, and I think people of a certain status in the UK kind of had these plates, right? It was like their IKEA. Right. So they've got them as well. And I'm interested in that bridge. Like you're kind of and that's like a two-pronged question, but one, this like it's not mystifying, but it's like taking apart these myths that we live with, or these hierarchies of class, I guess, right? That I think everyone is interested in saying, hang on a minute, what are these about? And so this act now, right? You're physically breaking these things, I'm guessing, to then make new work and tell your own story with them. And I think that's really beautiful and not a question at all.
Yeah, no, I think, no, it kind of opens up the line of conversation that's I haven't talked about or haven't been asked, which is that kind of hierarchy and how we revere hierarchy, even if we're sort of radical and want to change things. And so there's this, untouchable aspect to it. This, you're brought up with sort of respecting the structure, and how simply breaking a plate can kind of, be an act of taking down that hierarchy. It can be that simple, and most of the plates I use are either already they look antique, but they're newer. And so when I've gotten more actual antique plates, I get I'm not that comfortable breaking them. So I think that's, and so we revere these objects. We have this reverence for these objects.
What now in the making of them? Like, tell me about the process, right? So you say you found newer ones. Do you think through where you want the plate to break, or do you let it still be this sort of accidental? It breaks where it breaks, and I'll work with what I get.
Yeah, that's definitely been an evolution. I have more precision now with the breaks, not 100%. It's still chaotic, but I'm getting better at that to control the breaks. But most of the time, they'll be random. Initially, I would just drop them on the floor, but the bigger ones are sturdier, so I started using a rock to drop it on, and a hammer. I tried all these different things. Now I have a cardboard box with a rock, and I have different techniques.
Wait, so you put them in the cardboard box with the rock and like shake it?
I haven't tried. No, I kind of hold the plate above the cardboard box and then drop it. maybe 4 feet above.
Got it.
And your rock is, kind of large with a point at the top. And so it'll break that way. And then the shards will be around in the box rather than all over the floor, which they used to be.
My mind immediately went to like shipping porcelain, right? Or shipping sculptures and the way that we pad it out and how many times, I mean, it hasn't happened. It's probably happened twice to me, where you've unpacked a box and like the heartbreak of, oh God, no matter how well we did this, it's not going to survive. I mean, that there's a Jeffrey Mitchell piece behind me that when I shipped that to the UK, I put it in a FedEx box twice the size of it and padded it out so that it just had room to move and fumble without getting hurt.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you'll start getting commissions from people who, stuff breaks, right? And if they'll start coming to you for repair. Tell me a little, give us a potted history of your bio. So you said you were more into abstraction and conceptual art for years, and this is a departure, but can you just tell me a little bit about, where you started?
Yeah. I mean, I've done art my whole life. I studied art history in school. I was going to have a double major in art and art history, but I just wasn't comfortable with that's what you did too?
I did.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Did you do both? I ended up not doing the art.
I did not do art either. My parents wouldn't let me go to university just as an art major. And so I was going to do English and art history. I ended up doing, or English and art, and I ended up doing basically triple majored, but not officially. So I did English, art history, and fine art. Liberal arts schools were great at that, right? Like you could just do it all. But so tell me, when did you sort of switch?
I think it was after the first art class. I just didn't like the structure and control, and I just wanted to do things my way. But I ended up with a degree in art history, but I would do art at home and I'd bring it back to the school and I would get credit. So I think I was pretty close to having a minor in it, but I just didn't go. I just always did it. Then I moved to California and I was doing figurative work, as well as sort of abstract work, and got a good amount of critical reception there. I showed with Catherine Clark Gallery and Frumpkin Duval in Los Angeles, doing these large installations with everyday materials. So packing tape, rubber bands, wire. So there's a theme that kind of carries through to this. And then I started to get into technology and doing research and design in Silicon Valley, working for AOL and companies like that. And then moved to New York. And I started doing these like digital compositions, which actually compositionally are very similar to the fragmented drawings that sort of explode out, which I hadn't seen, but people would come into the studio and, oh, that looks like your earlier work. And so that connection's there. And that got a lot of reception too, was featured in Fast Company. The other work was featured in Sculpture and things like that. So there's always been critical, attention. But this work was just very strange. My wife put the picture of the first one up on Facebook, and all these people, her friends, everyone just loved it and was going crazy. I'd never seen anything like that. So, and it just kept going from there. So.
Have you tried to hazard a guess as to why it resonates so much?
Well, it was interesting. So I was doing them and getting lots of attention 2 years ago, initially on Instagram and Facebook, just posting some things. And then I thought, okay, I want to show this work. And the other art fair, where artists can bring their work, I thought, okay, I'm just going to do an experiment. I'll rent a booth, I'll get a booth and put the work up. I have no idea if people will like it when they actually see them. But it was fascinating. I've had so many shows. I'd never had reactions like this with this work. And I think it is because people they initially wouldn't recognize it. It looks sort of abstract as you're walking by. And then they would see the plates and they'd recognize the plates very personally. So there was a personal, emotional connection with their grandmother had these plates. My mom had these plates. Oh, I inherited these plates. I don't know what to do with these plates. Everyone had this really personal story. And then what was happening with the plate, the continuation of the story and the evolution of the story was just something that people hadn't seen before. So those were the things, this sense that, oh, wow, people have never seen this before. And it resonates on a very personal level.
How big do they end up being? Right. That's something that you can never tell from Instagram. Are they like 20 by 30? How big are they?
Some of them are 20 by 30. The largest would be like 40 by 38. Yeah. The smallest would be 25 by 25.
And they sit on a canvas, or you install them directly on a wall, or what happens?
So that was another whole process. I had no idea what I was doing. I just, needed to make this thing. So I took it to the framer, City Frame in New York, and brought the pieces, the drawing on a paper and the fragment of the plate. And I was like, can you do anything with this? And Corinne at City Frame was like, oh yeah, we got this, So they mount the paper on a substrate, and then they mount the plate on top of that. I sort of have it outlined, and then it's put into a shadow box. So it is sort of self-contained. And what I love about that, all the work I'd done before has been sort of on a wall in a gallery. And I've done a lot of wall installations, and I can see this work would potentially work well with that. But what I love about these objects is they're sort of their own universe, even though they're expanding into another universe. And I kind of like the reflection of the glass because it adds to the porcelain quality of the plate. It's like the plate is porcelain, and then the glass kind of extends out into the rest of the piece.
Have you ever combined two or three different plates together?
I have, yeah. And this show in New York is the first one that has, it looks like 4 plates, but it's actually 2 plates. But they're structured as sort of 4 plates coming together into this.
And just out of sheer curiosity, how much does this work go for?
$9,500 to $25,000. The largest is $25,000. So this show is sold out. I mean, not sold out, 75% sold out.
That's amazing.
It's so interesting. Life is interesting. Just keep going and keep working on things, and yeah, things evolve in such interesting ways.
I think no truer thing has been said, right? Like, you've got absolutely no idea, especially right. And part of this series, it's really trying to talk to artists about like the long, hard path without being dramatic, but it is the long, hard path. And I think for most artists, it's pretty lonely. I think most artists have a whole lot of like, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? And like, if I could be so bold as to ask, like, what does keep you going, or what has kept you going? This has obviously given you a, like, oh, okay, there's at least a life here. But over the years, kind of what's pushed you?
That's a great question. I think this work, there's a different drive to it, but there's always I just love to make things and see. I think that you communicate in a way and you learn about yourself, and it's just like exercise or some other sort of, spiritual practice or something where, you're able to sort of see different dimensions of yourself in what you're creating. And just the whole process, of you kind of transition when you're working on a piece, and everyone sort of says this, you lose yourself, you lose a sense of time. And then that's such an interesting space to be in, even though I'll resist it sometimes. But I've, from a child, and maybe it's even just sort of advocating for that child in myself, or, and seeing other people struggle and having success, and then wanting to share that with other people. And then with this work, I think because it was my mother-in-law's plate, there's this like, I want to get it out there, I want everyone to see it.
There must also, in the act of making these, there must also be this profound, maybe it's not profound, maybe it's really subtle, but that like you're fixing something, right? That like you are physically taking something that was broken. And in the first instance, it was something that was deeply personal to your wife. And so her heart was probably broken, right? We've all been there. I mean, my son during COVID broke a glass that my mom
had given my husband and I had a matching pair, and I haven't replaced it, and I could, but I kind of like that there's just one left. And I remember, and it wasn't a big deal at the time, but I was sad by it. And but there must just be this beautiful, like for you, this act of repair that happens while you're putting the pieces back together, as it were.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many, it's spread out over the course of making the piece, so that could spread out over 4 weeks, but absolutely, repair of memory, bringing history into something, bringing the present into something. So repairing the present, repairing wrongs that were done. It is sort of subtle, it's actually very subtle, but those are feelings that I feel at different points in making them. Because working with a plate and growing up, and we would go to Cape Cod every summer, and my family's from Cape Cod. There's this long history there. So we'd see these plates, but we didn't grow up with plates. The plates my parents have are all white in the china cabinet, which was funny to realize a couple months ago. But you'd go to places in Cape Cod, and there would be these plates with boats on them, and the storage there. And then, so all these memories come in, and then all this art history comes in, and then the plate has art historical quality, or has an archaeological quality. The reconstruction and archaeologies. Something, you go to the Met and you see like papyrus reconstructed and sort of.
Do you do a bunch of research into the plate and where it was made, or?
Not as much as I should, having an art history degree. I've slowly learned more and more.
Leave that to the art historians, right? Like, let them pick it apart and tell you what it's about.
I love it. Yeah.
I think there's a bit more freedom in the way you're doing it. And how about the found element, right? Or the everyday? It sounds like that's been a constant theme for you. Do you know why?
Yeah, I think as a kid, I think it was just fascinating to open up the junk drawer. And I think it was my mom would do this, or the babysitters would have these little crafts to do. And you see this junk drawer full of random stuff, and you pick out these things and make something amazing. And as a kid, it's even more amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that with this rubber band, spool of thread or something? And I just think that that's so important. It's hard to do that in the world when we're always, and I'm a victim of this too, like wanting to buy new things and being attracted to the new shiny thing. But, there's just so much joy in what's right in front of you,
Yeah, well, and obviously, right, at the moment, upcycling it's politically important. So actually not making more stuff is, it's important. A friend and an artist here called Henry Kirkatsis, he's just done this unbelievable floor, which is made out of, it's 4,000 and something pieces of floor that he picked out of skips, like out of, you know what I mean, skips. What do you call them in America? Like those garbage things that go on the back of trucks. What do you call those?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a dump truck. And he picked them out of those, and then has woven this floor together, like a traditional, beautiful floor. But it's done in this highly, highly technical, skilled way. But you're walking on garbage, like other people's trash that's been ripped up, and it's some of it's laminate and other bits of it's like oak, and it's amazing.
I'd love to see that. What's his name?
Henry Kirkatsis.
Okay.
He's great. It was I put it on my Instagram, I don't know, a few weeks ago or days ago, because he had an opening last week.
I think okay.
Did you see that? Like kind of Technicolor.
I saw the post
floor.
Yeah.
And just as you were talking, I was like, maybe that's why when you sent me your thing that I immediately connected to it, because I've been looking at what Henry's been doing for a while and watching him take these discarded, and I always think about with his work, it's like all these people walked on this stuff or used this stuff and then chucked it out, and he's made it into this like absolutely exceptional, gorgeous thing that brings value back in a way. And I guess that is sort of what you're doing.
Yeah, rebirth.
Yeah, rebirth. That's what I was going to ask. Is that whether you feel like you're kind of giving these things a second chance?
I do. When I get them back from the framer, yeah, it's. I think that's part of it, that difference when you're making art and you kind of lose yourself and you kind of go into that trance state, and then you walk away and you know, get something to eat or whatever, spend a time away and then come back. And you can see it with your more sort of everyday consciousness perspective. I love that when I send it to the framer because it's in such a different state. I have an idea. And so to sort of see it transformed into something and someone else had kind of participated in it, is really exciting.
Would you ever accept, or have you accepted a commission where someone sent you a broken plate?
I have, yeah. Usually the commissions, people will they'll reference a piece that's already existing and I'll have extra plates. I've done a few where people will send me a plate. And that's a little more difficult because it's actually kind of, I'm still learning all this, but every plate is different, so like the blue Delft patterns, especially around the Marley, the edge of the plate, is very different from the blue willow, which is more geometric. And the blue Delft is more abstract. And a lot of English is more sort of botanical. And I would never have thought that. I never noticed that. But so when I get a new one, I have to learn that drawing style a bit. So I've done a few. And some people, one woman sent a plate. It wasn't for a commission. She just had a plate and wanted to send it. And she packaged it in a way that it would break because she wanted it to break in the in the shipping.
God, so was it in 1 million pieces?
No, it was pretty good. I think it was like 4 pieces, but it did break.
Huh. That's cool. Then it becomes like, a collaborative work between you, the postal service, and the
right.
and the artist.
Right.
Right. Who was that? There is an artist that did that, right? His FedEx box. Oh man, what was his name? He did FedEx boxes that were they were copper, but it looked like a FedEx box with the FedEx label, and it was an actual FedEx label. And then he shipped them all around the world, and as they got shipped, right, they got all the hand of the handlers all over them, and they became these other things by the time they ended up at their destination.
Nice.
They were really beautiful. I can't remember his name, so that doesn't help anybody. What do you have any like ambition for the work? Do you have some like crazy goal? Like, do you want it to be at the V&A? Is there?
Yeah, I do. I again, that's where it's like, it was my mother-in-law was just such an elegant, funny, just wonderful person. I think of her so much, and like she would have so much fun being there. And then my wife, when she saw the first pieces and she'd see my work, she was like, wow, this stuff can be at the best places. And I was like, all right, let's get it in the best places. So I'm on a mission.
Cool. Well, let's see if we can help with that. Legitimately, I know a few people here, and it just feels like it would have such resonance with a UK audience that it'd be crazy not to get it in front of people. Because again, conscious of time, trying to keep these short.
Yeah.
One last question: if there was any artwork, present, past, any artwork in the world that you could own, what would it be and why?
Oh,
it's so hard. And I ask everybody this, but.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, so I'll just say the first thing that comes to mind is Lee Bontekoe. I just loved her work. I love her work from the 60s that could hang on a wall. And she just evolved. And then she did some work in the 90s, and I saw a show at Castelli. I can't remember where it was in New York. And it was these, broken apart constellations, almost like universes of different little ceramic objects. So different, but you could see, related to the earlier work. So yeah, that's who first comes to mind.
Love it. I've asked everyone that, and I just think it'll end up being a really cool little art history lesson, right? Because I'm not sure how many people in our audience will know Lee's work. And so we'll do a little feature alongside the interview.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you again. I'm so glad that you reached out to me. I cannot wait to see your work in person. We will make it happen either here or there. And please keep making it, because it does sort of scream out. It's wonderfully different.
Thank you.
And I think the more I think about it, this, like the breaking and repair of historical narratives is probably the thing that makes it resonate so desperately in this moment where we find ourselves needing to reconcile the past and the present currently. So thank you. You're remarkable.
Well, thank you, Carrie. No, I'm so grateful for this conversation. A lot's going to be coming to mind after this. Very grateful. Thank you so much. Great to meet you and talk with you. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Scene Podcast. If you liked what you heard, I'd love it if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to connect with us between episodes, follow us on Instagram at WatchSceneArt. I'm Carrie Scott, and I'll see you next time. Get it?